Hi folks, it's Bob from Mountain Crest Farm. How y'all doing today? It is a beautiful day today. And today's coffee chat, it's going to be different. It's going to be substantially different. I hate Christmas music before Thanksgiving. I hate Christmas anything before Thanksgiving and Halloween. I think it detracts from Christmas. The only reason that things happen Christmas before Thanksgiving and Halloween is because of corporations chasing the almighty dollar. And I hate that. However, I'm going to read y'all something today. And it does have something to do with Christmas. And I'm doing it now instead of early next month, so that if any of y'all are like me and your finances run tight at times, you'll still have time to take this story to heart and maybe do something. If I give you a little bit of extra time. I know I'm going to. Cindy and Sarah and I are going to. I'm not trying to shame anybody out there into doing it. I want you to hear what I read and do what you think is right. I don't know if this story is true or not. As I read it, it was supposedly true. I don't know who wrote it. If it's a true story, bless these people. And if it's not a true story, it's a really good parable. So, without further ado, and I'm going to put it in now because at the end of this, I'm just going to be done with this video. I'm not going to be telling y'all to hit the subscribe and hit the notification button and ring the notification bell. Go ahead and do that right now. When I'm through reading this story, I'm done with this video. So I'll just tell you all that now. And I'll tell you now what I usually tell you at the end. Remember, the tomb was empty and he is alive. Now, listen to this story and take with it and do with it what you think is best. Okay? It was Christmas Eve, 1942. I was 15 years old and feeling like the world had caved in on me because there just hadn't been enough money to buy me the rifle that I'd wanted for Christmas. We did the chores early that night for some reason. I just figured Daddy wanted a little extra time so we could read the Bible. After supper was over, I took my boots off and stretched out in front of the fireplace and waited for Daddy to get down the old Bible. I was still feeling sorry for myself, and to be honest, I wasn't in much of a mood to read scriptures. But Daddy didn't get the Bible. Instead, he bundled up again and went outside. I couldn't figure it out because we already had done all the chores. I didn't worry about it long, though. I was too busy wallowing in self-pity. Soon he came back in. It was a cold, clear night out, and there was ice in his beard. "Come on, Matt," he said. "Bundle up good. It's cold out tonight." I was really upset then. Not only wasn't I getting the rifle for Christmas, now he was dragging me out in the cold and for no earthly reason that I could see. We'd already done all the chores, and I couldn't think of anything else that needed doing, especially not on a night like this. But I knew he was not very patient at one dragging one's feet when he told them to do something, so I got up and put my boots back on and got my coat. Mommy gave me a mysterious smile as I opened the door to leave the house. Something was up, but I didn't know what. Outside, I became even more dismayed. There, in front of the house, was the work team, already hitched to the big sled. Whatever it was we were going to do wasn't going to be a short, quick little job, I could tell. We never hitched up this sled unless we were going to haul a big load. Daddy was already up on the seat, reins in hand. I reluctantly climbed up beside him. The cold was already biting at me. I was not happy. When I was on, Daddy pulled the sled around the house and stopped in front of the woodshed. He got off and I followed. "I think we'll put on the high sideboards," he said. "Here, help me." The high sideboards? It had been a bigger job than I wanted to do with just the low sideboards on, but whatever it was we were going to do would be a lot bigger with the high sideboards on. Then Daddy went into the woodshed and came out with an armload of wood, the wood I'd spent all summer hauling down from the mountain, and then all fall sawing into blocks and splitting. What was he doing? Finally I said something. I asked, "What are you doing?" "You been by the widow Jensen's lately?" he asked. Mrs. Jensen lived about 2 miles down the road. Her husband had died a year or so before and left her with 3 children, the oldest being 8. Sure, I'd been by, but so what? "Yeah," I said. "Why?" "I rode by just today," he said. "Little Jakey was out digging around the woodpile trying to find a few chips. They're out of wood, Matt." That was all he said, and then he turned and went back into the woodshed for another armload of wood. I followed him. We loaded the sled so high that I began to wonder if the horses would be able to pull it. Finally, he called a halt to our loading, and then we went to the smokehouse, and he took down a big ham and a side of bacon. He handed them to me and told me to put them in the sled and wait. When he returned, he was carrying a sack of flour over his right shoulder and a smaller sack of something in his left hand. "What's in the little sack?" I asked. "Shoes. They're out of shoes. Little Jakey just had gunny sacks wrapped around his feet when he was out in the woodpile this morning. I got the children a little candy, too. It just wouldn't be Christmas without a little candy." We rode the 2 miles to Miss Jensen's pretty much in silence. I tried to think through what Daddy was doing. We didn't have much by worldly standards. Of course, we did have a big wood pile, though most of what was left now was still in the form of logs that I would have to saw into blocks and split before we could use it. We also had meat and flour, so we could spare that. But I knew we didn't have any money, so why was he buying them shoes and candy? Really, why was he doing any of this? Widow Jensen had closer neighbors than us. It shouldn't have been our concern. We came in from the blind side of the Jensen house and unloaded the wood as quietly as possible. And then we took the meat and flour and shoes to the door. We knocked, and the door opened a crack, and a timid voice said, "Who is it?" "Lucas Miles, ma'am, and my son Matt. Could we come in for a bit?" Miss Jensen opened the door and let us in. She had a blanket wrapped around her shoulders. The children were wrapped in another and were sitting in front of the fireplace by a very small fire that hardly gave off any heat at all. Mrs. Jensen fumbled with a match and finally lit the lamp. "We brought you a few things, ma'am," Daddy said, and set down the sack of flour. I put the meat on the table. Then he handed her the sack that had the shoes in it. She opened it hesitantly and took the shoes out, one pair at a time. There was a pair for her and one for each of the children. Sturdy shoes, the best shoes that would last. I watched her carefully. She bit her lower lip to keep it from trembling. And then tears filled her eyes and started running down her cheeks. She looked up at my daddy like she wanted to say something, but it wouldn't come out. "We brought a load of wood, too, ma'am," he said. Then he turned to me and said, "Matt, go bring in enough to last a while. Let's get that fire up to size and heat this place up." I wasn't the same person when I went back out to bring in the wood. I had a big lump in my throat, and as much as I hate to admit it, there were tears in my eyes, too. In my mind, I kept seeing these 3 kids huddled around the fireplace, and their mother standing there with tears running down her cheeks with so much gratitude in her heart that she couldn't speak. My heart swelled within me, and a joy I had never known filled my soul. I had given at Christmas many times before, but never when it had made so much difference. I could see we were literally saving the lives of these people. I soon had the fire blazing and everyone's spirits soared. The kids started giggling when Daddy handed them each a piece of candy, and Mrs. Jensen looked on with a smile that probably hadn't crossed her face for a long time. She finally turned to us. "God bless you," she said. "I know the Lord has sent you. The children and I have been praying that he would send one of his angels to spare us." In spite of myself, the lump returned to my throat, and the tears welled up in my eyes again. I'd never thought of my daddy in those exact terms before, but after Widow Jensen mentioned it, I could see it was probably true. I was sure that a better man than Daddy had never walked the earth. I started remembering all the times he had gone out of his way for Mommy and me and many others. The list seemed endless as I thought on it. Daddy insisted that everyone try on the shoes before we left. I was amazed when they all fit, and I wondered how he had known what sizes to get. Then I guessed that if he was on an errand for the Lord would make sure he got the right sizes. Tears were running down Widow Jensen's face again when we stood up to leave. My daddy took each of the kids in his big arms and gave them a hug. They clung to him and didn't want us to go. I could see that they missed their daddy, and I was glad I still had mine. At the door, he turned to Widow Jensen and said, "The missus wanted me to invite you and the children over for Christmas dinner tomorrow. The turkey will be more than 3 of us can eat, and a man can get cantankerous if he has to eat turkey for too many meals. We'll be by to get you about 11. It'll be nice to have some little ones around again. Matt here, he hasn't been little for quite a spell. I was the youngest. My 2 brothers and 2 sisters had all married and moved away." Ms. Jensen nodded and said, "Thank you, Brother Miles. I don't have to say, may the Lord bless you. I know for certain that he will." Out on the sled, I felt a warmth that came from deep within, and I didn't even notice the cold. When we had gone a ways, Daddy turned to me and said, "Matt, I want you to know something. Your mother and me have been tucking a little money away here and there all year so we could buy that rifle for you. But we didn't have quite enough money. Then yesterday, a man who owed me a little money from years back came by to make things square. Your mom and me were real excited, thinking that now we could get you that rifle. And I started to town this morning to do just that. But on the way, I saw little Jakey out scratching in the woodpile with his feet wrapped in those gunny sacks. And I knew what I had to do. Son, I spent the money for shoes and a little candy for those children. I hope you understand." I understood, and my eyes became wet with tears again. I understood very well, and I was so glad Daddy had done it. Now the rifle seemed very low on my list of priorities. He had given me a lot more. He had given me a look on Miss Jensen's face and the radiant smiles of her 3 children. For the rest of my life, whenever I saw any of the Jensens or split a block of wood, I remembered, and remembering brought back that same joy. He had given me much more than a rifle that night. He had been given me the best Christmas of my life. Now, this is supposed to have been written by a guy named Matt Miles. I don't know if it was or not. I don't care if it was or not. I don't care if it's true. I don't care if it's a parable or if this really happened in 1942. I know that reading this the other day made me make a decision. I have to go find a Mrs. Jensen this year. And every year. I have to go find somebody that really needs help. Not that wants help, not that could use help. See, we've talked before in my coffee chats. By most standards, we're poor around here, but we're not poor, we're rich. If I was poor, I wouldn't have this phone that I record this on. If I was poor, God, look at all that stuff behind me. Stuff. But there's people out there that need help. And I've known it for a long time, but I've never read a story that just put it like that. So I'm going to go find a Mrs. Jensen, and I'm going to go find some little kids that maybe Cindy and Sarah and I can, like Matt says about them, they saved their life. They didn't just make things better. They didn't just make for a better Christmas. They saved their life. I don't know if I can find anybody that I can save their life. But I know I can find somebody that needs the help. And I'm going to. And I've done things like that before. You know, I've gone to the church and loaded up the boxes that you go around and give out for Thanksgiving, you know, a turkey and some candy jams and some green beans. No. I'm not talking about an organized thing so that you can do it and check it off your list and say I was good to somebody. I mean personal. I've got to go find somebody to help. I have to. I hope you have to as well. Now, I will see y'all in the next video. Y'all have a blessed day.